In CIST 2510, Chapter 6, you're going to create a basic or create a page layout. So you're going to be guided through the process of building your basic site layout. Now, to increase productivity and create an overall cohesive theme, you're going to develop a one-page web page that's going to be based on one of the Dreamweaver starter templates. And then you're going to convert that into a Dreamweaver template in the next lesson. So we'll start by evaluating page design options. First, we'll look at our layout. This is our favorite city mock HTML. This is the mock-up. These are included in your starter files. One thing I do want to stress is that in each chapter, you need to make sure that you go in and define your site. I've already defined the site for this, but make sure that you go in and create a new site each time for each chapter. So looking at some starter templates, we click on the starter templates. This gives us some options here. We have some bootstrap options. We have some emails, responsives, and then our basic templates. And we can view these. So when we click on the starter template, this gives us a basic layout for our web page. And we can just replace the text. We can replace the images and so forth with our own content. So this is a quick way you can build a web page. Now the one that they have you actually working with in the chapter is using the Bootstrap e-commerce. Okay, so this is going to be the one that's going to be the closest to our mock-up. Now these templates, they're built to support both desktop and mobile browsers. So this makes using responsive web design faster and easier to learn. You'll also upload a file to your Creative Cloud account to the library. And that's using the extract. So let's start by opening up the we'll save this first as my layout. HTML. So by saving this as my layout HTML, we've now created our template area here for us to start working with based on that template that we're using. So if we go to Window and Extract, just open up the Extract option, and it's going to create connect our Creative Cloud account. And so we're going to have any Photoshop files that are listed in our assets. So we click on Images. We have it our Resources. So here, what this does, this allows us to extract elements from our Photoshop mockup that we can now use into Dreamweaver. So we'll upload a Photoshop file. And you'll see it's uploading. Okay, so now I have the Photoshop file uploaded. So I'm going to click this. Now it's going to load this into the extract panel. So what I can do now is I can pull the styles for example, the yellow background of the page. So when you click it, see, I can copy this to my CSS. I can adjust the width, height, select all. Same with images. So I'm going to click copy the CSS. Notice it's been copied to my clipboard. When I go to my CSS designer, so in here I can now access where I want to place this. So if I want to place this in my nav bar, for example, I can place it there. In your text, it has you going to the dot background dark. Now you'll notice that this is blacked out right now. That's because we're using a CSS or a Bootstrap template. So those are locked. In the chapter, you will go through and enable this so that you can edit these options. You'll see that it is listed as read only. So to make this writable, we're going to create a new CSS file for this. So add a new source, create a new CSS file. And then here we have the new file name. So we're going to name it favoritestyles.css. And we'll click OK. So we've now created a new CSS, but it's not been created yet. Okay, so it's not going to happen until we save the file and create a CSS rule in this. So in here, we're now going to go down to selectors. And we're going to add a selector. And so in here, I'm going to type .bg. And in the hints, I'm going to choose the dark. So don't forget to use the dot first, the period, because that's going to define a class with your HTML and CSS. So going through this again, type the .bg. I'm going to dark, and then you can click on this. When you right click, I'm going to now choose to paste styles, and see now the styles have been extracted from this Photoshop file into my CSS. Now, there may be times you run into conflicts with CSS where it's conflicting with a different style. So the bootstrapped CSS, it is actually using a explanation point important modifier on the background property. So let's look for the background property. In the BG Dart, for example. So what you can do is you can go in and fix this. Um, and change this by adding the explanation point and the important attribute to your CSS. So let's look at the CSS, for example. For the background Dart class. You see we have the explanation part important. So that is overriding what we have in. So you will have to go in and add that to your CSS. And notice that my CSS is not here anymore. Okay, that's because I did not save that file. So if I get to this point and I've noticed that my CSS is not here, I will need to go back and redo those steps. You also learn how to extract text from that mockup. Now, this is only going to be possible if there is a vector text layer within Photoshop. The text and image layers are only saved in a PSD and TIFF file formats in Photoshop, but extract only supports the PSD. Now, when you're extracting the text, as you see, you do have the option to copy text. And you see all the attributes you can turn on and off. You can, if you want to change for a different font family and so forth, you can. So I'm going to copy the text, copy my clipboard. Let's see when I paste it in. So I can take the text that I've created in my Photoshop and then copy and paste that in. In here as well. So this is something I can also do, for example, for my navigation. So that will have a time-saving effect on copying and pasting everything over. Now, you may find elements in here that are not needed as well. For example, this area here may not be something that we are going to be using. So in this case, we can click the images. We can see the attributes here. And if we're needing to remove the text, we can. We can click the X on these options. I'm going to select the actual option. So I can delete the row. So when you move your mouse pointer over those, you'll see the X in the tags. That allows you to remove those objects that are not needed in your Bootstrap design. You can also click on the right thing, copy and create new menu items. As you see, we do have the DOM area down here. Okay, so this is where you can use this for this exercise. Allows you to create items for the new list item. So for example, in here, you can right click, you can copy the existing ones and paste them in, or you can insert before or after. So if I want to insert a item after this, I click insert after, and it starts with my insertion, and then I can choose and we'll look at extracting a image from a Photoshop file. We go to Window again and back to Extract. I'm going to bring back my Extract panel. So by selecting the image, with this, I have some options here to extract assets. So we'll click on this, you can see the folder that these are stored, where they're going to save them as. So I'm going to click Save. And so that will save the image. I can change the location. So I saved it in just my Chapter 6 folder, which is located here. So I generally want to keep all of my images into my images folder. So you need to make sure that you have the correct path located here is when you extract images from a mock-up. So like I said, Chapter 6 is a lot of hands-on. The chapter walks you through step by step on creating your templates you'll be using, your mock-up you'll be using for the rest of your website.